Are you house hunting, or are you going to be house hunting at some point? Because if so, this is definitely the video for you. We are going to be going over some red flags that you are absolutely going to want to keep an eye out for when you're looking for your next home. It's supposed to be a really fun and exciting time for you when you're house hunting, but you also want to make sure that you take the time to do your diligence and keep an eye out for these red flags to ensure that the process not only goes smoothly, but there aren't any major surprises down the road concerning the home. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Hi, I'm Damian Marks, your local go-to guy here in the Lower Mainland. I want to make your house hunting journey as stress-free and as smooth as possible, but I also want to make it an educational one. So if you like the information in this video, or you know somebody who may actually benefit from it, please feel free to share it. And as always, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe, and any comments you have down below. Now, let's get into the first red flag. And to start it all off, we're going to be quoting the sagely wisdom of Toucan Sam, who says, "Always follow your nose." But on a serious note, if you're in a home and you smell persistent odors, it could be mold or mildew behind the drywall, and it could be evident of a persistent leak. Or maybe you're in the garage and you notice a similar smell. Often that could be caused by an issue with the drainage tile on the exterior, or just the inability on the property to divert water away from the home. It may just seem like an odd smell at the time, but it can lead to some costly repairs down the road. So I always stress this. It's really important to just pay attention to it. That minor odor that you think you smell could be indicative of a larger problem. DIY electrical is the next thing we're going to touch on. Electrical issues are not only inconvenient, but they're dangerous. You may or may not already know this, but there are a lot of renovations you can do in your home or condo or townhouse and you don't need to pull permits for. However, anytime somebody is going to touch anything electrical or plumbing, they should pull permits for this. Now, some people choose to do it themselves and don't. So if you are looking at homes in the future and you suspect there may be some kind of electrical work or plumbing where they just kind of wung it and did it themselves, you're absolutely going to want to make sure that permits were pulled. I'll give you an example. I had a client purchase a condo in Coquitlam, and they had pulled out the carburetor out from under the sink. Now, after they pulled out the carburetor, that electrical wire that was feeding into the carburetor was just left sitting there under the sink, and while we were doing our inspection, we found that the wire was live. Now, they had taped off the end with some electrical tape, but that's hardly proper procedure when you're just leaving a live wire under your sink. So yeah, anytime you see some electrical work or plumbing that looks kind of Mickey Mouse, you're going to want to make sure they had permits pulled, and even better, get a certified electrician or plumber in there just to make sure that it's not going to create a headache for you down the road. Mysterious stains and watermarks is the next one we're going to touch on. Now, these are not uncommon, and you will see them in a plethora of homes you are going to see. These will be evident of either ongoing water damage, it could be past water damage, whether that's burst pipes, or just a failing roof. One thing you will see sometimes in homes is they will have what I call just quick patchwork paint jobs. So you'll notice fresh coats of paint, but only on small areas of the home. Often this can be done to cover up either past water damage or even existing or current water damage. One thing I always recommend is getting a home inspection anytime you're purchasing a home, whether it's a condo, townhouse, or detached home. And even if it's brand new, I bet even Mike Holmes on Home and Gardening TV network is getting a home inspection when he buys something. One example actually you'll see was I had some clients, and this was a $4 million house in Langley, and one of the ensuite bathrooms had a pipe burst, and so the floor was actually buckling upward. As part of our agreement in our contract negotiation, I got us a $30,000 holdback in the contract, meaning that the sum of that amount would be held back if the repairs to not only the floor, but also the damage that happened to the garage below had not been adequately repaired, at least to our standards. So that's something you definitely want to keep an eye out for. And if that damage is there, you do have tools at your disposal to have it dealt with. The next one is going to be renovations or additions done to the home without permits. This one is quite common, and you do see it pretty much everywhere you go. And some really common examples of this could be throwing in an unauthorized suite downstairs or somewhere else in the home, or even something like converting the garage into additional living space. Maybe it's a bedroom or a living room. While this stuff can be okay, it is really important to ensure that proper permits were pulled, because this can lead to some liability or legal issues down the road. Like some examples of this would be, and you have seen some stories about it in Surrey over the last couple of years, where somebody's had like a detached house and they've now thrown in like 4 suites. So they turn that 4-bedroom house into, 10 bedrooms. People like that, those homes can be pinched, and the city can require you to actually pull all that stuff out, and they're not the ones paying for it. It's going to be you. And while it's quite rare for the city to go to somebody if they just have like a single unauthorized suite in the home, it can still happen. And it's just important to know that there are some risks associated with this. And in order to minimize those risks, you're just gonna wanna make sure that the important stuff like the electrical and the plumbing and some other items have been done properly and that proper permits were pulled. And yeah. Outdated systems in the home is going to be the next one we're going to touch on, and this is specifically pertaining to electrical and plumbing. This will generally apply only to older homes. And in some of these older homes on the electrical side of things, you may see aluminum wiring or the old knob and tube. This is just really important to be aware of because A, it can be costly to replace and update it. And the other thing is it will have implications on your insurance. You will pay a premium for it. The other thing on the plumbing side of things we're going to touch on is you may see copper piping, galvanized steel, or poly B. Poly B is one you've probably heard about, and you will see commonly used in townhouses, condos, and homes, especially if they're, these homes have been built in probably about the last, not the last 35 years, but have been built maybe 40 years ago up until the late 90s is when it was commonly used. And poly B has a bit of a bad reputation because of how it expands and contracts. It can lead to cracks in the pipe, which then leads to a significant water ingress. Another thing you will commonly see an issue with it is the fittings that are used to connect the pieces of the pipe. You want to see copper fittings, absolutely. Sometimes you'll see cheaper fittings, could be plastic or whatever. If you see that, that's a bit of a red flag there. And if you are purchasing a home with all this in mind, you're going to want to make sure you get those fittings changed out ASAP. But if anything newer that you're looking at is going to have PEX plumbing, and PEX plumbing is, it is fantastic. So yeah, if you're going to be renovating a house that you own even, make sure you go with that. Excessive noise is the next point we're going to touch on. And often when I have clients that want to go view certain homes, I do always recommend that we actually take a look on a map and see where the home is actually located. If the home is facing out towards a busy street, this will not only affect the property's value, but it could also affect, your quality of life. Even just being a block or two in from a busy street can impact the home's value, and not by a small amount. I've seen numbers as high as $100,000. And this is important for you to take into consideration because down the road, when you look to sell the home, the future buyers are going to have this same concern, especially with all the development now that is happening across the Lower Mainland. Busy roads will get busier. The other thing to take into consideration is, are you near a fire hall or a hospital? Maybe it's Royal Columbian in New West or Ridge Meadows Hospital. I myself live near a fire hall in Port Coquitlam, and while it doesn't really affect my quality of life, I will say that more often than not at night, I will usually hear at least, a couple of sets of sirens happening, I don't know, probably about 4 times a week maybe. Anyways, definitely something you want to take into consideration. And this one, which may surprise you, is proximity to rapid mass transit. This particularly is going to apply to the SkyTrain here. While there are a lot of people out there who see, they're putting in a SkyTrain near where I live, that's fantastic, that's going to put up my property value. That is a very common method of thinking, and while it can be true, there is also a bit of a darker side to rapid transit coming to your area. on top of, increased foot traffic and more noise, there also are a lot of studies out there that actually do show that crime in areas with access to rapid mass transit also does increase. And I know personally from speaking with a lot of clients of mine, I do have clients that actually want to get out of the areas where they see rapid transit coming in, or don't want to move to those areas in particular. So while, the SkyTrain is great and rapid transit is super handy, it's just important to keep that stuff in mind as well. I'm not saying that, violent crime or anything dramatically goes up, but, it can be more B&Es and stuff like that. And to top it all off, no pun intended, we're going to be touching on misaligned roofs or roofs that are missing shingles. As we all know, if you've ever replaced a roof or been in the strata where they have, it can be quite costly. Some things that you're definitely going to want to keep an eye out for are the shingles misaligned? Are there patches of shingles that are missing? Because this will inevitably lead to water ingress into your house, and this will be costly to get fixed. Another thing I do like to keep an eye out for is, have they been repairing the roof in patches? In my experience, it's quite ineffective. I mean, cost-wise for the time being, it can be, but over the long haul, it's extremely inefficient. If you're going to, replace the roof, I know it's sometimes hard to bite on that cost and do it, but you're just gonna wanna do it. So you as a buyer who's out there, I really do like to put some particular attention onto the roof. Areas where you will see most likely to have some leaks could be around chimneys or vents, or this one, which might surprise you, but skylights. I personally really like seeing skylights in homes. I like more natural light. But yeah, those can be a trouble area. In fact, we were doing an inspection on a home in Pitt Meadows, and while the inspector was up on the roof checking out the skylight, he was actually able just to lift open the skylight. Like, it wasn't sealed down properly. Now, there hadn't been any water damage, but the potential for it certainly was there. So yeah, that's going to be the last point. So we're going to circle back. Like I was saying, house hunting should be fun and exciting, but it is really important to stay vigilant and is key in making a smart purchase. Were any of these on the things you're keeping an eye out for? Did I miss something that you think is really important? Please let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you found this video educational, informative, or helpful at all, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe. It helps the channel grow. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.